You'd think players would have learned by now. Coming at Caitlin Clark isn't just risky, it's personal. But nope, the WNBA is heating up, and Clark is right in the middle of the fire. Trash talk, elbows, and tension are in every possession. And this time, when former Wildcat Rhyne Howard tried to bully Clark on the court, it backfired. What started as some jawing turned into a moment Howard will be thinking about for the rest of the season. There's no denying Clark's talent. The pinpoint passes, the deep threes, the elite court vision. She's got the kind of game that makes you lean forward the second she crosses half court. But with greatness comes gravity, and Clark's gravity has pulled in everything. Praise, hate, admiration, and physicality. She's not just playing basketball, she's playing under a microscope, and this season it feels like everyone has something to prove against her. Veterans, rookies, fans, even analysts. When the Atlanta Dream came to town, it was Rhyne Howard who stepped into the eye of the storm. From the opening tip, Atlanta made their intentions clear. Brianna Jones was left open when Aaliyah Boston sagged off, and she drained a three. Clark responded immediately, using a screen from Boston to attack the open lane and finish at the rim. Still, Indiana had a problem, and her name was Brianna Jones. The Fever had no answer for her physicality down low. To make things worse, Natasha Howard was getting out-muscled, and Brittany Griner was dominating the restricted area while also locking down on defense. Howard was cleaning up second-chance opportunities, and Atlanta was attacking in transition, punishing Indiana's slow transition defense. Rhyne Howard added to the momentum by sinking a deep three, giving the Dream a strong start in their first home game of the season. With the Fever struggling, Christy Wallace stepped up offensively, going straight at Tahina Paopao and using a clean screen from Damiris Dantas to knock down a deep three. But Atlanta had a plan, and that plan was to clamp Caitlin Clark. Rhyne Howard shadowed her like a full-court ghost, giving her zero breathing room and turning defense into offense. Brianna pushing the pace and finishing coast to coast. But then came the moment that changed everything. As the final seconds ticked down in the first quarter, Indiana had the ball, and Caitlin Clark had the spotlight. Dribbling near half court, she charged straight into the heart of Atlanta's defense, with Rhyne Howard hounding her. Full body pressure, no space, no let-up. But that heat didn't faze her. The two squared up, neither flinching. Howard was in her face, jawing, trying to rattle her, but Clark stood tall, not backing down an inch. This wasn't the same Caitlin Clark we saw last season. This was a tougher, more seasoned version, one who's had enough of the cheap shots, shoulder checks, and welcome to the league hits. Right there at midcourt, Clark fired back. After a foul was called, Howard leaned in and muttered, "Try it." Without hesitation, Clark snapped, "I'm not scared of you." And just like that, the tone for the rest of the night was set. In her very first game against the Chicago Sky, Clark had already given Angel Reese a moment of her own, showing she's not afraid to get physical, even with her biggest rivals. So when Howard tried to rattle her, Clark doubled down. As the teams walked off for halftime, Howard brushed past her and tossed a few more words her way, but Clark simply stared her down and gave a casual thumbs up, subtle, cheeky, and loud in its own way. The message was clear. You're not getting in my head. Up to that point, though, the numbers told a different story. Indiana was struggling, shooting just 2 for 8 from the field with 4 turnovers, and Clark still sat on the same 2 points she opened the game with. But moments like these awaken a competitor, and Clark was about to flip the script. With the clock winding down in the first quarter, she took the ball, surveyed the floor, and with a skip pass, found Sophie Cunningham wide open on the weak side, cutting Atlanta's lead to just 5. Indiana came out of the break with renewed energy. They weren't just here to play, they were here to fight back. Cunningham kicked things off by finding a cutting Christy Wallace, who sliced through the defense for an easy bucket. On the other end, the Fever locked in defensively, swarming. Brittany Griner with double teams and forcing tough contested shots. Atlanta made the mistake of daring Damiris Dantas to shoot from downtown, and she made them pay. Lexi Hull, still feeling confident from the first quarter, kept attacking, finding her rhythm and getting to her spots. Aaliyah Boston wasn't filling up the stat sheet yet, but her screens were critical, creating the space her teammates needed. It all came together in a blistering 11-0 run, and just like that, Indiana flipped the game, surging ahead 24-8. Still, the Fever kept sagging off Brianna Jones from deep, and she continued her hot hand, keeping Atlanta's offense alive. But Indiana had an answer. Kelsey Mitchell sliced through defenders, dictated the pace, and scored at will, while Clark stopped settling for threes and started asserting herself in a whole new way. Caitlin Clark was punching the gap, attacking the mid-range, and making Atlanta pay from inside the arc, while Natasha Howard used her craftiness and shiftiness to drive all the way to the rim. Still, the bully kept punching back, despite tight defense. Rhyne Howard was sinking buzzer-beating prayer shots like it was routine. With Atlanta throwing double teams at Clark, she elevated her playmaking, finding a cutting Howard driving to the rim and continuing to punish the dream with her vision, including a slick backdoor pass to Sophie Cunningham behind the defense. Indiana kept pushing the pace, forcing Atlanta into uncomfortable transition defense and capitalizing on every missed rotation. But just before halftime, Rhyne Howard got enough separation from Clark to rise up and bury a deep three, silencing the crowd. In a single quarter, Indiana flipped a 5-point deficit into a 3-point lead. The second half opened with Indiana looking sharp. Clark cleared the lane and Kelsey Mitchell turned on the Jets, blowing by defenders and finishing strong at the rim. Momentum was building, and with Brittany Griner sagging off, Christy Wallace had all the space she needed to calmly drill a mid-range jumper. But the Fever got a little too comfortable, and Tahina Paopao made them pay, catching the defense sleeping and draining a deep three in rhythm. Atlanta began hunting mismatches, feeding Griner in the post where she used her size to dominate, and the Dream stormed back with a 10-0 run to take a 2-point lead. Mitchell wasn't having it. She drove downhill, split the defense, and finished at the rim. Indiana's defense tightened up, forcing turnovers and pushing the tempo in transition. Then it became Cunningham's time. Her backdoor cuts were devastating, as defenders overplayed Clark and Mitchell, leaving wide-open lanes. Clark took over again, with Atlanta's defense stretched thin, finding daylight and attacking the paint, with zero hesitation. To close the quarter, Aaliyah Boston brought the hammer, lowering her shoulder, powering through two defenders, and muscling in a tough bucket to give Indiana a 3-point lead heading into the final stretch. Clark opened the fourth with pure craft, a hesitation, a crossover, and a burst that left Atlanta's defense reeling as she sliced to the rim for a smooth finish. But Indiana couldn't build on that lead, with Alicia Gray taking on the double team and scoring at her spot, and Rhyne Howard still in full bully mode, getting to her sweet spot and keeping the Dream in it. Rhyne Howard cashed in from the left elbow, while Natasha Howard cleaned up her own misses, dominating inside and showing accuracy from deep. Lexi Hull answered quickly, but Rhyne Howard kept attacking, driving downhill and piling up points in the paint. Atlanta crashed the boards hard, and Alicia Gray turned offensive rebounds into second-chance daggers. On the other end, Natasha Howard continued her dominance down low, bullying her way to the rim. The game was a back-and-forth battle, with Atlanta holding a slim lead with under 3 minutes to go. That's when Kelsey Mitchell hit her first three-pointer of the night, right when it mattered most, putting Indiana ahead for good. With Atlanta doubling Caitlin Clark on nearly every possession, she made the smart play, finding Aaliyah Boston down low for an easy 2. That bucket helped seal the Fever's 81-76 win over the top-seeded Atlanta Dream, giving Indiana their third victory of the season. The best part? They didn't even need a scoring explosion from Clark, they just needed her fire. It was one of the most frustrating shooting nights of her career. Foul trouble, 0 for 5 from deep, and just 11 points, snapping a historic 140-game streak that dated back to January 2022. But when Clark couldn't get it going from long range, the rest of the team stepped up and battled in the trenches. Indiana thrived in the paint, outscoring Atlanta 46-20 down low, with Natasha Howard as the engine behind it all, crashing the boards, attacking mismatches, and finishing with a game-high 26 points on 12 of 17 shooting. Atlanta did damage from beyond the arc, hitting 10 threes and riding Rhyne Howard's 24-point performance. But when the game got tight, it was Indiana's grit and physicality that sealed the deal. And while the box score didn't show Clark's usual fireworks, she knew what truly mattered, walking back to the locker room with the only stat that counts: the win. Rhyne Howard tried to rattle her with physical play, trash talk, and relentless defense from the opening tip. But Clark didn't fold. She fired back, not with words, but with leadership and composure under pressure. In a game that felt more like the playoffs than the regular season, it was Howard who played the bully, and Clark who made her instantly regret it. If you're loving these WNBA deep dives and all the drama, intensity, and unforgettable moments, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because there's a lot more elite women's hoops action on the way.